Hello everyone, Cheek here with another Transformers review, and today I'll be reviewing Transformers The Movie Studio Series Leader Class Astrotrain. I think I can. It seems to be the motto of this figure. All aboard! I think it's very funny that, and it never occurred to me till now, but that if you look at the train, the only part where people can really be in train mode is right here, because it's the engine. It's not like a car. It is just the train. So the fact that not only can all the Decepticons fit in here, but that means that the majority of the train engine is, well, storage area. So I don't know why that never occurred to me until now. It's one of those things that you just don't really question. It's sort of like how Devastator can combine and form inside of Astrotrain. They can fight while he's in his spatial mode. It's just one of those inconsistencies you kind of have to ignore. But I do think it's cool that they include a little back door like that, even though it doesn't really go anywhere. It just, yeah. So you can, if you have the nano metal figs, which I don't have, I gave them to my nephew, so can't really simulate that part. But as you can see, he does have a nice effect, and I just love how the pinions move and the axle and all that, how all this moves. Now the downside is that sometimes it catches a little bit, like it doesn't want to roll the greatest, but also it is on a solid surface, so you can only expect so much without it, well, having something to really grip on. And also a real train would weigh a lot more, so I think that would also help, would be just the weight of the train pushing down on the track. Why start out in his best mode when we know that the other two, especially robot mode, are widely despised? So it's sort of like, why not save the best for last? Well, I think it's nice to start on a sweet note sometimes rather than ending on a sweet note. But hey, I'll figure out a way to end on a good note, even with finishing up with robot mode. But I love all the train details. It looks so nice. Like I said in the short, it's obvious that they put all their love and attention into this mode, even though you can still see visible shuttle parts, and of course obviously the boosters in the back, but that was also in the cartoon, so you have a rocket propelled train. My only major gripe with the train mode, in all honesty, is that there is no wheels back here. Obviously the original toy has wheels, but that's for support, and that wasn't really train wheels, that was just more, and none of the train wheels touched the ground either, so, but I'd say the proportions seem about right. It's consistent width throughout the length of the train. Obviously, it's narrowest up here, but it doesn't widen so much like the Siege Astrotrain did. I wish I had him for comparison, but I eventually gave him up because I hated his train mode, and his spatial mode looked like, well, it looked like the back end was missing some shielding or something. It didn't look that great. And of course, because it's precious, oh so precious, or because comparisons, here we have him with reissue G1 Astrotrain. And as you can see, he does have only 4 wheels. Now granted, they're a bit larger. Well, actually, they're physically about the same size, but they are larger, but they only cover the front part. It covers about the same, and then the back part, it's about the same on it, actually. The only downside is that there's nothing for it to rest on really in the back. It's just sits there, so it looks a bit weird. But it does. But the wings kind of do swoop down a little bit lower. So yeah, you just have his wings dragging. All triple changers, it's almost always a rule, is that at least one of the modes sucks, one is great, and one is mediocre. It's usually they focus on one mode, and I think people are just upset they didn't really focus on robot mode for this guy. And for comparison, here we have Legacy Blitzwing in tank mode, which I think is his strongest vehicle mode, although I think overall his strongest mode is robot mode, which I think is what some people are upset with Astrotrain, because they went with train mode instead of robot mode. And one more thing, for train mode, if you so desire, you can store his weapons on the sides. But I think it looks really silly when you do that, but it is something that you can do. Choo-choo with guns. And here we have Astrotrain in his space shuttle mode. I wish this thing went higher up. I think that's, okay, I think now. Okay, I guess it wasn't quite transformed right, but that's as high up as the tail fin goes. It's, I'd say this is probably his second strongest mode, but I think the space shuttle mode is pretty decent. The only thing I don't particularly like is the 2 front landing gear rather than just 1 landing gear. But then again, I think the original toy had 2, but we'll see very shortly. Anyway, one thing that I think is very funny to note is that, well, obviously, anyone that would be inside would be flipped upside down as soon as he transforms from train to space shuttle. Other than the front or the top up here, because I mean, he does look a little weird in the back, but at least it doesn't look like it's scrawny, like someone skinned it and just took off a chunk of meat with it too. This just looks a bit messy, but at least it's filled in mostly. And then you still get the 3 boosters like a space shuttle. So I'm not complaining too much about that. The only thing that I don't particularly like I said, is the short tail fin, vertical tail fin. And these all plug in pretty nicely. And there we have a flying space shuttle, which I think is pretty cool. And then, of course, you could then plug these guns into the sides right there, which I think looks a little bit better on the space shuttle than the train, but not by a whole lot, if you ask me. And for comparison, here we have him with G1. Well, it's not an original G1, it's a reissue, but G1 Astrotrain. And I think that as far as the space shuttle mode, I think out of Siege, this one, I guess 86 if you want to call it 86. I know it's not 86, but Transformers the movie studio series, Astrotrain, and then the original, I think as far as aesthetic of space shuttle and close enough to the cartoon model, it would be G1 Astrotrain. So as far as rankings of which figures look the best in which modes, as far as mainline, obviously third party, there's some third parties ones. I unfortunately don't have any of them, but that do pretty much all 3 modes and do them fairly well, except they're, from what I can imagine, probably extremely convoluted and highly engineered. Anyway, G1 for shuttle, Studio Series for train mode, and then Siege, without the battle damage, for robot mode. Anyway, yeah, so space shuttle, the biggest gripe, like I said, other than the back and the tail, is that this is too rounded up here. Like, it's supposed to be a little boxier, like this right here. Like, it's just, I mean, it looks good. Don't get me wrong. I think it looks good. It's just not as accurate to the cartoon. And then, like I said, of course, the back with the fins and all that. And then, obviously, there's more visible train parts in shuttle mode than there is visible shuttle parts in train mode. Here we have Blitzwing, and he is definitely a very brick of an airplane. Yeah, I forgot how goofy his airplane mode looked, but I mean, I think it's kind of on par with maybe Siege Astrotrain's shuttle mode, maybe. But I mean, at least it's a vehicle mode and not the robot mode that's sacrificed. Like I think the jet mode is Blitzwing's weakest mode, but it still looks kind of cool. All in all, I'd have to say it's the best modern take on Astrotrain shuttle mode. Now for probably one of the not so great takes on his robot mode. Here we have him in his robot mode. His weakest link, his weakest mode. I have to say that I could forgive the short little arms. I mean, they're not as short as the G1. For example, let's just go ahead and bring in G1 real quick. See, he has itty bitty little arms, but he still gives the energy of those little arms, just not as bad as all that. But currently I have him in the more tune accurate configuration. Now one thing I just now realized, at least on my copy, is that he wants to lean kind of back on his heels a little bit. But at least with I will give him this, they did give him very large heels so that he can support this backpack, because even with me trying to knock him over, like, I really have to be trying to knock him over from the fall backwards. So I guess that's one thing. That's one thing going in his favor so far for robot mode. So one thing that's good, he is pretty stable. But one strike against him already in robot mode, you'll notice there's like almost no color. There's supposed to be color here and here on his torso. If you have the artistic ability and the right paints to do it, you can paint this torso to be the right color. I'm probably just gonna wait until repro labels to do that, or toy hacks to do that, rather than try painting it and messing it up myself, making him look even worse. And then the legs, like, they're not quite boxy enough, but I could forgive the rounded look right here and all that if it wasn't for all this kibble right here. I will admit it does look kind of smooth right here. It doesn't stick out too bad. Like, if you're looking from the back, it doesn't look too bad. It's just this right here is such an eyesore. It just, ugh. So I guess as long as you look at him thigh up, he actually looks pretty decent, and then you don't realize as well how small and ill proportioned his arms look. Because if his thighs were just a little bit shorter, like maybe if they were up to here instead, maybe his arms wouldn't feel so short in comparison. Okay, I'm gonna rag on him just a little bit more as far as what I don't like, and then I'll get into the things that I kind of do like more so than, you know, him being stable. Is this big old backpack right here. Like, it's very big, and you can't really do anything with it. It gets in the way right here. There's so much kibble, you can't really do much with the waist at all. So he is pretty limited in that regard, but yeah, so that's pretty much all the bad stuff about him. Is that side profile, he looks pretty chonky in the back. He just has that big old backpack. But like I said, good thing is they were smart enough and gave him big enough feet. Yeah, so for the tune look, you would give him this gun, and I guess I'm not quite done with all the bad things. For whatever reason, they made either the holes on the blast effects too small, or the peg on the front of this gun slightly too big, and it is very difficult to get any of these blast effects to go on. And then once you get one of them to go on, then it's a little bit of a pain to get it to go into the booster, because it stretches out the hole a little bit and makes it not sit in there properly. But at least, I mean, it is a nice little blast effect that you can use. And then that is his tune gun, which I think is cool. I like this look. I think my personal favorite combination would probably be toy deco gun with tune deco chest setup. And the downside is when you put it in on the old gun and then you try, or tune gun, you try to put it on the toy gun, it doesn't want to go in as well because it stretches it out. But I think the toy gun just looks better overall, as it's more substantial. But yeah, I think that's... there we are. Oh, and nice stiff joints. That's another thing. For the most part, most of his joints are stiff. But then look how small his arms look. Like when he's holding his gun, like it looks so skeletal, and those gaps don't really help. Oh man, I'm trying to be nice. I really am, but I just keep finding little flaws. Okay, from this side, he doesn't look as bad, but still. And for the more toy deco look, if I can get to pop out, there we are. Take this up, and then it also, what's really nice about it is that it tabs into place. But they went to all this trouble to give us this as what, to essentially give us optional whether we want toy deco or tune deco, and they didn't bother to color this or this. How much more would that have cost Hasbro to do that? I'm not going to blame the designers, at least not on the color and paint stuff, because I'm sure they probably wanted to do something nicer, but they just didn't have enough of a budget. Now for the engineering part, I don't really know who else to blame other than the engineers, the designers, because it's like I mean I know that they probably know better what they have to work with as far as budget's concerned, like how many points of articulation, how many different trees they can have for the assembly of the figure. I don't know, but I think considering how much they get ripped off by third-party companies, I'm just surprised that they don't, I'm not saying one-for-one copy a third-party figure, but take a lot of inspiration, like the proportions and basic transformation of how it goes from robot to space shuttle and to also to train mode. Like I like, there's a lot of good stuff here. Like I said, I love the pistons. That's what sold me on getting him to begin with. If it wasn't for that, I might have actually passed him up. I will say I do like how that fills up the torso right there, so that there's not a huge gap. One thing I don't really necessarily like though is the hinges right here. How it gives that, it just makes his chest look a little emaciated and shrunken right there. It just looks a bit odd. Anyway, articulation. The head is on a ball jiggle up and down. Gets a little bit wobbly. Head is stiff. Can do a full 360. Arms can go out about that far. Could do a full 360, except the wings get in the way. It does feel a little bit loose up here. Bicep rotation. Way over 90 bent at the elbow, so that's a good range of motion there. Wrist rotation, and his hands do open. I do believe that is to hold the coronation crown, but for the life of me, I haven't really been able to get him to hold it in a way that really replicates the way he did it in the cartoon. He does have waist rotation. I mean, realistically, for most figure needs, for posing needs, this is more than adequate. So it's like, just as he can't do a full 360 on the waist, is not that big of a deal. He can do the full splits, legs, and that's another quibble, is that for me, the way it's designed, it just catches on that flap. Like, if it didn't catch and it just smoothly went underneath it to lift up the flap, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but it's just like, every time it's like, oh yeah, I want to move his leg forward, so lift that up, and then full kick. You can only kick forward that far. Obviously, you can't go back very far, just because of all that junk in the trunk right there. I probably said thigh rotation. Let's see, knee. And it's a nice ratchet at the knee, too. Like, I like the ratchet there. Like, it's a very nice ratchet. He gets over 90 bend there, but the problem is the leg gibble gets in the way. And then he does have ankle pivot, and due to transformation, you can bend the toe and foot just a little bit. Like I said in one of my, I think my Instagram or Facebook posts or whatever about my review for this guy, is that he is a mixed bag. And even then, I don't know if that's the best analogy, as some might say, a sack of unmentionables or some other things. I don't think he's quite that bad, but I mean, if it wasn't him for trying to be as too accurate as possible, I would be more willing to forgive some of the engineering designs. But considering he's supposed to be a representation of him in the cartoon, it's just left a lot of people disappointed, myself included. But as a YouTuber and just a collector in general, I felt like I had to at least give him a shot. That noggin, I know I kind of skipped over that, but his noggin looks pretty nice. Let's see, there we are. Come on. Don't focus on Starscream, even though he thinks he's the center of attention on everything, but that noggin is very nicely done. I like the gray paint, light gray for the face, red eyes, and then that yellow crest on his head. I think, like I said, for the most part, waist up, he actually looks fairly decent. It's just the legs, I think, that really throw everything out of whack. And just as a comparison, a throwback, I remember how upset people were about Blitzwing's tank mode, and even I initially was kind of upset about it until I realized, oh, that actually is tune accurate. But like, he has his own issues, but I'd say overall he balances out a lot better than this Astrotrain. But I will say they actually do look pretty good together. Now all we need is Octane, if I remember his name correctly. Then I think that will be the 3 main G1 Decepticon triple changers. Astrotrain had the distinguished honor, or whatever you want to call it, of crowning Starscream leader of the Decepticons before he was promptly disintegrated by a reformatted Megatron into a Galvatron. Wait, let's just see. Let's see how the crown suits Astrotrain. I guess it kind of sort of sits on his dome, but yeah, I doubt he would ever do that, especially after what happened to Starscream with Galvatron. Yeah, there's no way he would be so foolish. But I'll show you about the holding the crown. I guess technically you can make him hold the crown with his hand, but you really can't hold it in a way as to actually crown someone. So it seems, assuming that's the reason why they gave him opening hand, seems kind of pointless when he can't even hold the crown properly. It was a wonder I managed to get to hold sit. See, you can't even hold on to it right when you do have the hand clamped down on it. It was a wonder I was able to get it to kind of sit on his hands for the thumbnail photo of him crowning Starscream. My only concern for long term is the way the head connects. This just connects to the torso. I'm afraid that's gonna just come loose, where it's just constantly popping loose and it's just gonna come apart. But other than that, he seems to hold together pretty well in robot mode, except for the stupid leg panel things. And I think I've been ranting and raving long enough about this guy. So that's about it for Transformers Studio Series, Transformers the movie Astrotrain. Definitely a very mixed bag. Alt mode's better than his robot mode, but his robot mode is okay, but not what we were looking for. Anyway, if you like this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. Until next time, have a good one, everyone.